Hi Nisha, this is a quick feedback video for the videos that you submitted yesterday on Sunday, the 21st. Just a few places where you still have a kind of a consistent error. First with the Czerny. This is at measure 25 and 26 left hand. And before we start, make sure you have your book and have a pencil. Have a book and your pencil, and you don't have to play it, you just need to make markings in your notebook. This is what you need to watch out for. So Czerny, number 25 at measure 25. The left hand, you played by memory on the video, that's great. So you've got everything except for here. And those are the four measures, measure 25, 6, 7, and 28, 27. Wait a minute, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 25 through 28. Practice just those four measures until you have it down and you hear it and you're not confused anymore. So, and you can play the, after you get used to those four, add the next four. So this is, that's the character of the second half of this piece. You start off with a, so left hand, and, and back to normal. Repeated notes on the left hand. Remember that all the entire 8 measures towards the end of this exercise is repeated. Okay, so do practice measure 25 to the end a number of times. Just tell yourself left hand only has repeated note. It's not. Oh, I guess that's what's happening. So you played from. I'm going to play from measure 21, and left hand has only 2 measures of the. You only have 2 times, and then immediately. Okay. Maybe it's almost easier to just remember where you play the C, E, G, C, E, G. And it only happens at measure 19 and 20 and 23 and 24. Those are the only 2 measures where your left hand does not play the repeated note. So that's one way of thinking about it so that you get it, the notes correct. Okay, so that's Czerny. And the Moths, you still have the same mistake that you had a week ago. So you really need to put a big mark on it, and don't let that persist. First note error is at measure 13. That's that's a top line of page 63, the middle measure. So that middle section starts like this, right? And next one is a B natural. So you have the F sharp and B natural, and then you have the B flat finally. So make sure you get that correct. You have a black key, white key, and then black key. And if you play a B flat there, it becomes like a blues scale suddenly, and it's just a wrong harmony. There's the word. Sort of look at the dynamics, that whole middle section. You start forte, soft, starting from here, it's forte throughout. So you have a lot of accents after that. So it's a soft, loud, soft, loud, soft, and loud for a long time. And then new section the section, you know, the first theme comes back, and that's all soft. Okay, so the B flat at measure 13 or the second measure of page 63. Put a big circle on that. Well, same thing with the measure 13 and measure 14. So the top line of page 63, it's a B natural. You probably should write it B natural and spell it out on the top of the page so that it gives you an alert. I think the other thing, you probably know what you where your error was. It's page 64, the top line. You probably should be practicing just the left hand alone until you really know what the notes are. Like I've mentioned before, it's all the same. You know, the first theme is exactly the same as the beginning when it comes back after the middle section until you flip the page. So you just need to practice from page 64. That's where it's actually different. Okay, that's one. And next one. Fussy articulation. So right hand has 3 separate groups, left hand has a staccato. Well, yes, but nonetheless, the left hand. So that left hand you will probably have to just practice as left hand alone. Rest. AC, rest, and make sure that you know your left hand, and then get it together. And you should start. You should break up the phrases. That's one, and then you know get that out of the way. Move on. Do that again. So those are that left hand. I know that you had some note reading issues, so that's that. Now I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I have to mention something about the articulation at the very first line of this piece. If you look carefully, it's staccato all the way through until you get to the left hand. The left hand over note does not have a staccato. So you need to be able to distinguish the staccato bits and the non-staccato parts. So just the first line alone, that's all staccato. And non-staccato, so you have to hold it. So you have different articulations. Staccato, hold, with an accent too. After that is legato. It's mostly legato, but you do have those slurs. That's one slur, and then next one. I do that again. The next one. So together. And while the right hand has 3 different segments to it, left hand is 1. Put them together. So I think it's very important that you practice in segments like that. Make sure you get the first 2 lines correct, because that pretty much summarizes what's happening afterwards too. So staccato, hold. Okay, that's 1. Again. and just pause there because you're going to do something new. You don't need to be able to play in one big flow until you've got each of those sections down. Next. See, very different. And then back to the staccato. And then next is slurred part. And left hand doesn't have a slur marking on it, but it's just, you know, you want to match the articulation of measures 3 and 4. So he's left hand smooth, one big long line. And in the meantime, the right hand has quite a few segments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you need to make sure that you have 5 groups. So right hand too, you should practice along. And there's also, while you're doing the articulation, it's good to start adding the crescendo and so forth, because crescendo is one of those things that you have to play using the bigger muscles. You know, how loud you play is controlled mainly by your arm, like how much weight you put into the keys. So while you do the articulation is also using the bigger muscles and like the, you know, the joints like your wrist and your elbow sometimes. So you want to be able to, you should be practicing them, you know, all combined. Well, obviously this is after you know the notes, after you know the rhythm, but you know, after you know the notes and the rhythm, now pay attention to the articulation and the crescendo. So there's a crescendo at measure, a short hairpin at measure 8, and you know, diminuendo hairpin at measure 8, right? And then measure 9, you see a longer crescendo, and it doesn't get softer after that. So you maintain. That part should be louder than the mezzo forte. And then next part starts with the forte into the sforzando and soft. Now there's a sforzando after the forte and a sforzando after the mezzo piano. Those are not the same sforzando. The first sforzando is louder than the second one because it's a loud, soft. Well, if anything, you can cross out the sforzando on measure 12 because there's already the accent on those, you know, on the very first beat of measure 12. So yeah, you might as well, you know, cross out, because you know, if you look at the similar measure, the measure 12, 13, 14, that one doesn't even have a sforzando, and right hand doesn't even have a accent on it either. So you just have to tell yourself, okay, loud, soft, whether there is a sforzando or not. Okay, so I hope you took down enough notes in your music. It's you know, it's very important that you look at your music away from the piano. Once you start playing the piano, you're so focusing on the pitch and the rhythm. Oftentimes you just cannot how do you say, absorb and execute all the other instructions that are on your music. So it's good to know about it before you even start playing. And when you're learning the other information, which is not the note, you know, not the pitch and the rhythm, it's the staccato, the non-staccato, the slurred lines, where they break, and where the, you know, all the very fine details of the music, you will have to practice in very small sections. Like I played, you know, you practice 2 measures at a time. That's best. Yeah, to try to get the articulation just right by breaking up into very small units and getting it just right. And I know you have other new, you have the rest of the, you know, rest of the piece, all of page 64. And also, you know, oh yeah, especially regarding the top of the page 64, you know how, you know, that's different than when you know the theme was presented the first time on page 1. So that's something you can just keep, you know, to tell yourself if you look at the big picture, that's where, you know, so the corresponding part in the beginning, that's the first part. That's when the theme is presented the first time. The second time is, so it's different, right? So you want to be able to recognize how is it different from the first time, so that you can try to memorize the music more efficiently. You don't have to memorize every single note. You can memorize in chunks, and you say, this is where the change happens, and this is the new material. And you know, that you know, as you know, I was teaching a younger student earlier last week, and it's a beginner piece. The song has totally 50 notes, but you're not memorizing 50 notes one by one. You're making groups out of it, and you're trying to, you know, have some sort of a you try to memorize things in a bigger picture, like repeating patterns and changing patterns and so on. And you know, this piece is a much more, you know, advanced version of that. So try to you know, do spend time looking at the music before you play, and then, you know, put some marks in that's going to help you play better once you sit at the piano. Okay? All right, so I'll see you later. Bye.